Okay, so this is our, this is,
share. We're not seeing it yet.
it's not doing it.
Not yet. That little icon, right? Yeah. And then,
Yeah, this one. Sorry.
There we go. Now we got it.
Okay. Okay. So this is, as I said, a standards overview. And we're going to hit the highlights, things you may know, things you may not know. And feel free to stop me if you have questions or put them in the chat. Christine and Sally are both here monitoring the chat, and we'll try to answer all your questions. So the agenda basically is the overview. We'll talk about building standards, how to maintain your standards. We'll briefly talk about standards grade calculations, kind of in a broad sense. Next week, we are doing a grading power hour where we get more into the calculations and the setup, but we'll certainly mention it here. And then again, if you have questions, you can stop us. What kind of standards reporting is available, and troubleshooting tips and tricks. First thing I want to mention is meta documentation. So you know that you can go to the navigation bar and click on the little question mark within PowerSchool and click on meta documentation. I just typed in the search bar standard, and these are the documents that that came up. I put some check marks beside the ones that I think you'll find most helpful. There's a standards overview, and that's the overview for the enhanced user interface. There's the QRC PowerSchool SIS. That is PowerSchool's what they call a quick reference guide. It's everything you want to know about standards from the PowerSchool view. There's how to edit, export, import standards. That's really helpful because you import your standards. If you're starting from scratch, you're doing brand new. So Jen, that would apply to you. Or you want to export out what you've got. That's a really great document. I did say there's gradebook setup, but and how Power Teacher Pro calculates standards. But again, that's something that we would cover next week. This is not, again, not the full training. It's not teacher training. This is all admin appropriate. So let's talk about what kind of reports are there. In your menu, there is a PSCB free standards reports. And I think that is because I can't see my notes. I think it is under data and reporting. And
yes, data
and reporting. So these are PowerSchool, or no, sorry. These are PSCB created reports. The very first ones, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the top, you can only run from the school. You don't run those from the district. And they give you some things like, how do I search for standards grades? How is that percentage broken down? How many assignments have been tied to a standard? And then a list of the current year standards. You can go to your standards page and you can see those and you can export them out. But this is a report that will give that to you. And then there are 2 district reports. Remember, PSCB are reports, they're not ours. We didn't write them. We can't do anything with them. But most of the PSCB reports, as you print them, have some kind of searching and filtering capabilities. So if you haven't looked at those reports, you might want to check them out. Meta documentation, the PSCB reports, those are places to go, as well as in your navigation bar. If you go to the question mark and system help and put in the word standard, you will see all of the PowerSchool documentation on standards. It's in a little bit different format than the QRC, but it's the same information. It's basically a lot of the same information, but all good places to look for resources. Let's talk about what's the process. The process is, the first thing you want to do is plan and organize your standards. And the thing to remember is that a standard can be anything. It doesn't have to be, from ODE or whatever. You can make any kind of standards. Maybe in my school, my kindergartners have 4 standards, and they are, can tie their shoe, can wash their hands, whatever those 4 things are. Some people make some standards for behavior or so things like that. A standard can be anything. You want to be careful about your naming conventions, be consistent. Your best practices, as far as we are concerned, is not to do one big lump, but to do it by grade level. So all your first grade standards together, all your second grade standards. The system will let you, so say I have an art standard and I have all my classes, and I can make that one art standard and put all those classes, but that causes all kinds of issues. If a kid's in a cross class, it can double up the grade. If you have too many courses, PowerSchool doesn't like it. But the main reason you want to do that is for you, for organization, and for troubleshooting. It's so much easier to say, I've got the second grader whose standard's not showing up. I can go look at the second grade standards. I don't have to go search around. And so that is our best practice. You need to know your grade scales, and you need to know the grade scale numbers when you are creating your spreadsheet to bring in new standards, or when you're editing, you want to change a grade scale. And if you go to District Academics and Grade Scales, which is your grade scale page, you'll see the grade scale DCID column. I'm assuming everybody has that customization turned on, but that's where you would see the grade scale number. So that's something important to know. And then, how do your standards get created? You can make a spreadsheet, and Jen, that's probably what we would do with you. We'll make a spreadsheet or give you the template, tell you where the template is. It's in meta documentation. You create the spreadsheet, and then you import those in through Data Import Manager. But you certainly can manually create standards. So different ways to do it. If you were doing a lot, I would not do it with manually. Think of when you're creating that or planning those, you're thinking of it as an outline. It's a hierarchy. So just an example of that. Here are my second grade standards, my naming conventions. So under my second grade standard, I have a standard called second grade, and that identifier is 2. And underneath it, I have reading, and that was 2.RD. And then I have math, and that's 2.MA. And then I have science, 2.SCI. You see how that works. And then I have numbers. There's it's sort order. It's they don't call it that. I forget what they call it. They used to call it sort order. Now they call it something else. Or no, we'll look it up real quick. But this is the order you want to see. It's sort order within parent. So that means my parent is second grade, and under second grade, I want to see reading first, and then I want to see math, and then I want to see science, and so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then under that, again, keeping with your outline, I have under second grade reading 2.RD, I have reading fundamentals and reading literature. That's 1 and 2. My sort order within my parent of reading, I have 1 and 2. Under reading fundamentals, I have 2 standards, and that is 1 and 2 under the parent of reading fundamentals. So again, it's some people get confused on that sort order with parent, and they just list them like 1 through 20, whatever. But it really is a hierarchy. It really is, think of it as an outline. And since most of you already use this isn't new. We weren't sure where people were on this. So again, your standards can be created manually or imported with Data Import Manager. And that template is in the meta documentation. Something important when you use that, that template though, standards are grade specific. So all the standards you see right now in your standards list are year 34, because that's the year we're in PowerSchool. Next year's standards will be 35. So if you're creating a spreadsheet to import standards in, the year is very important. You would put 35 because I don't want to import them into this year's standards. I don't want to change anything for this year, but I do want to add it to next year. So next year's 35. Again, you're going to need that grade scale ID, and you're going to have to put course numbers on those standards. So within PowerSchool, where are your standard screens? So if you go to District Management and Standards, you will see all the standard screens. Standards is the one that used to be called List Standards, but that's the screen that will take you to see your hierarchy. It's where you can manually create a new one. It's where you can edit a standard, make it inactive, whatever. You're working with one standard, but you're seeing it. You can collapse all of your standards or just look at one group at a time. That's your standards page. You also see, you also see customized standards list and list settings. So that is the customized standards list settings is where I search for some standards. This is where I'm going to go look for my inactive standards. I have a standard. I know I created it. I can't find it. Oh yeah, I remember I made it inactive. If I just search on my standards page, it won't come up. I can't find it. But I can go to Customize Standards List Settings. And on that page, I can say standard contains, I can put in 2 dot or 2.RD, or I can put in recognizes, or I can put in just part of a word, contains. I can also say, just show me my inactive. And then I can also tell it what to bring back. When I put that information in and I hit submit, the results come back on the customized standard list. That's your results page. So that's the difference between those two things right there. This is also where I see my standards grade roll-up settings. So how PowerSchool works with standards is I'm in a class and I get graded with a standard. And usually, like in our example where I had the lower level standards of 1 and 2, I have those roll up to a parent, and then those roll up to a overall reading standards final grade. There's also, if I am in a class and I have, say I'm in a reading class and my teacher is Christine, and Christine grades me, but I am in another class, I'm in Sally's class, where she is grading that same standard. The system will try to take those two standards and average them for me. This is why sometimes you'll get a note from your teacher that says, I put an M in the grade book, but the kid has a P or whatever, because it is averaged those two grades. This is another reason we are recommending you do your standards by grade level. But that's just how PowerSchool works. So they created the standard grade roll-up settings screen to help you. And there is a KB article, and I put it on one of those notes, Betty. We'll give you that number here in a minute. I'm not sure which slide it's on. Sally and I are tag teaming here because I only have my laptop. It's
1397.
Yeah, in PowerSchool Community, the article is KB 1397, and it goes into detail about the standards grade roll-up settings. So something you might want to read just to make sure that it's doing everything that you want it to do. This is also the screen where I see my standards for next year. So going back to my standards page, that's where I can search active standards. I see my hierarchical list. I can create standards manually, or I can edit. Customize standards list settings, customize standards list where I'm searching for my inactive or a standard I can't find if I'm searching on the standards page. And it lets me do some filtering. Managing for next year. This is a way to work on your next year's standards this year. Basically, it copies your current standards that you have right now, and it changes the year ID to 35 and creates that new next year list. You would go to change your year to next year to work with these, to edit, to make them inactive, do whatever. Or you could also import, and if you imported in using year 35, you could overwrite what was there. But if you are not changing your standards are staying the same, you don't have to do this because the end of year process will automatically roll over all of those standards and make them year 35. So it's important to remember you do not want to edit or change existing standards because you are changing them for this year, not for next year. So manage next year. When you go to this screen, there's a little button that says, do you want to copy these over? And you say yes, and it will copy them over for you. That's really all it is. It's really easy. But again, it will also tell you you don't have to because end of year will do it for you. This is only if you want to start working on your standards for this year before school's out. So calculation decisions for teachers and for standards final grades and for roll-up grades. How does it all work? We will be talking again about that next week. But the things that are important that you want to know is what's your default? The PowerSchool default is the most recent 3. It takes the calculation of the most recent 3 standards and it averages them. They all have equal weight. And there are ways for you to do a specific weighting of a standard. You go to the course and you click on standards and you can give it a higher weight than another one. It's called specific weighting. There's lots of documentation about how to do that. Hardly anybody does. What I do see people changing is instead of doing the most recent 3, maybe they're doing the most recent 5, or maybe they're doing the highest standard. You know, if it's truly mastery, the kid has mastered the standard, then I want him to have the highest grade. I don't want it to average anything. I can do mean, median, mode. in the documentation, it goes through each of those calculations and we'll explain how that works. But know that the default, unless you change it or a teacher changes it, that's what it will do, the most recent 3. You can, on the admin side, when you are setting up your grade preferences, say, I want it to be the most recent 3, but I don't believe that you can lock the teachers out. I think the teachers could still override that. Most teachers like to do their own, but I also will say that I think most teachers just leave it alone unless you have a specific policy. If your policy says we want you to do it this way, you need to communicate that to your teachers. So we talked about the standards screen, the meta report card screen, the PSCB free standards reports. This is, I have to tell you guys, I did this PowerPoint like right before we started. So I do have some duplicated slides. I'm so sorry. So the most important things for you to remember are plan ahead. Don't wait until school starts and then say, I think I'll do standards. I know sometimes that's out of your hands. Your teacher, your principals maybe, or your teachers will say, we're changing the way we're doing everything, but that's causing you a lot of headache. And, you know, creating that spreadsheet takes time. So you don't want to wait until Friday after the first week of school and say, okay, I think I'll do standards for Monday because you may not have it by Monday. So that's a biggie. Again, if you are changing your standards or you want more help with standards, you put a ticket in for help. The other things that are important for you are creating your standards by grade level. And then know where to find the standards information for troubleshooting. And then put a ticket in for help. There is, again, we showed you the meta documentation. There's a lot of documentation. There is a full video. It's not, we didn't do it this year. I think it's last year's video, but it's a full training on standards on the Meta YouTube channel if you want more, or you can put in the help desk ticket. And then as you have questions, you can always throw them in the help desk and ask us those questions. We're always happy to help you. We're happy to, if you have your spreadsheet and you want us to look it over before the import happens, or you need help with the import, we're always happy to help you with that. So with that, I am going to end this PowerPoint. And then I am going to go over to actually be here in, this is a training database, fake data, not real data. And then here, academics and here. So let me know what questions you have or what other screens you'd like to see. Anything else, we have 30 minutes to talk about this. So what kinds of questions do you have? You can unmute or you can put it in the chat. For people who have been using standards, there's not really anything new. I think the important thing to know is about the manage next year. I can show you that real quick. I always like to search for stuff, manage next year.
I think it's standard.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you got it. Sorry.
So basically, you're just clicking on that little list that says create standards list, and it puts it in the 25-26 school year. And I see Jen's typing a question. And you're right, Jen, until you get in there and start playing around with it, you may not know what to ask. I will go to the standards page and just so everybody can see what I'm talking about with the hierarchy. Overall, this is your top standard under Common Core. Then I have all my grades underneath here. I'll click on second grade. This is where my second grade, I have language arts, and under language arts, I have a header, and then I have standards under that. So these lower level standards are rolling up. Now, when you are setting everything up, if you say you want to use lower level standards for your calculations, that means your teachers have to actually put a grade in one of these lower levels. If I just go in and say I'm going to put a grade on 2.RL, it may let you do that, but it's not going to show in your report card because you said I want the lower level to roll up and give the standard. So that's important to remember. I clicked on a standard just so you can see the name is the name of the standard. The identifier is what you created in your list, 2.RL.06. Parent standard is that one above it, 2.RL. Sort order within parent, we've already talked about that. The system automatically assigns a level. In the old days, for those people who've been around for a while, you could set the level. The system does it for you now. This is where you say this is an active standard. You put in your description, you put in your courses. It's not mandatory that you put in a subject area, but it's nice for searching. And this is where this deviates a little bit from the spreadsheet. When you import on the spreadsheet, you have to put in the grade scale DCID number. When you are manually creating one or changing one, it will be the name, and you just choose the name of the grade scale. Can teachers score this? If you don't have that checked, a teacher cannot see that in her grade book. Do I want to include comments? And so let's talk a minute about comments. The way standards work, and this is a PowerSchool thing, it's not a meta thing, is if you want a comment to show on the report card, you need to put that comment on the highest level standard. If I put it down here on a lower level standard, it'll let me put it in the grade book, but it will not show up on the report card. And again, that's a PowerSchool thing. So we tell people, don't include comments unless it's a higher level. We have some meta things here that you can do with the standard. You don't really need to do header indicator. The system should do that for you. Unless you have something that you absolutely want to be a header and the system's not doing it. But you really shouldn't have to even mess with that. Do you want to exclude this standard from the showing up on the report card? Maybe you're grading a standard. You made a standard called field trip permission, but you don't want to show it on the report card. It's just something that you want the teacher to be able to track. I don't want to show it. I would click exclude. I also can say, I'm only teaching this standard quarter 3, or I'm only teaching the standard. I only want to see this grade on the standard S1 and S2. It will gray out anything I don't want. So let's say I only want this one to show up. I'm only teaching this quarter 1. I can gray out the rest and it will only show up for quarter one. Comment score. This is a kind of an unusual one. We had a district who had, for their fifth graders, they had them run a quarter of a mile. And their score was just text where they could put in like a minute and a half or whatever. They didn't want it to show as a comment, even though it was a comment. They wanted it to show up within the score, the grid. And so we created that for them, and they could say, I want this to show up with the grades. It's not really a comment. And then the out of is I can put, we had a district who gave their kids a score for a reading test, and it was out of 500 points. So I could put 500 here. When they entered 350 or whatever the student's score was, they, on the report card, it would say 350 out of 500. So just some things that you can do. We don't do anything with longitudinal ID or external ID under the admin data. We rarely do anything with that. So that's how I would edit. If I have something here and I want to make it inactive, I can do that. I can search here for a word, or I could search for a identifier. So I have a standard. I'm looking for a standard that somebody said there's something wrong with this standard and maybe something spelled wrong. I can put that in there and I can go, oh, wait, here it is. I've spelled something wrong, and I can fix it. Notice your name. This used to be limited to 80 characters. Now it's 120, but it will truncate on your report cards after 120 characters. You can put as much as you want in the description when you're doing report cards. That's why we say use name instead of description, because that description can be really, really long. And maybe that, your parents don't need to see that whole description. But teachers, when they hover over standard in the grade book, can see it. So that's your standard screen. Let's go look at your standards list settings. This is where I said you can look for something here. The $ is contains. The line in the $ is not contains. Equals does not equal. I can put in a number. I can put in a word. I can say I want to see my active, my inactive. I can put in a search for a course. Say I have a certain course. I can look for that. These are all search criteria. And then what do I want to see? What do I want it to bring back? I want it to bring back the grade scale. I want it to bring back the parent identifier. That's what all these little check marks are. And then you submit. And this is really where the only really good place to see inactive. So what do I want to, how do I see standards for a kid? So there are a couple different places I can go to look at a student. And here I'll go to I'll do this from the school. Again, this is fake test data, so it looks a little wonky sometimes. So I can go to my quick lookup. Quick lookup is only showing me course grades. It is not showing me my standards grades. I can click into this and I can see my course grade. And if I have a bunch of assignments that have standards on them, I can click on that little that little blue link there and see what standards are attached to that. So that's one way to see it. But I'm just going to go back here. I have a tab here that says standards grades. This is the same as pulling up the kid and going over here to academic records and doing standards results. It's the same screen. I can expand all of these or I can expand one of them. I can see the grades that this kid has. I can click into the grade. I can see the name of the standard. I can see the store code. I can see class date it was updated, who's the teacher, what's the course and section. I can see the grade. And I can see grade scale details. So it tells me it used that EMAB, but I can see that here's EMAB. What does that mean? Sometimes, depending on the standard and depending on your permission, see if I can find one, not this kid. Sometimes I can even click in that grade and change it. I can, if there's a comment there, I can add a comment if there's a comment box. None of those standards here. Let's see if any of these. Here's one that has a comment. That little dialog box means that this standard said include comment. And I can come over to here. Let's see. It doesn't look like they actually put a comment in, but if they did, I could have typed in, this one's not letting me, but it depends on, again, my permission. Sometimes I can type a comment in there. So there is a way to, teacher's not around, school's out, you need to fix a grade. You often are able to do that, again, depending on your permissions. Sometimes you'll see standard grades not associated to sections. This could be this kid was in this class for semester 1 and that class is done. Or he was in a class and they dropped that class, but there were standards grades. That's where you'll see it's not associated to a section the kid is in right now, but you can still see those grades. So that's your standards results. So you can see it again from the quick lookup standards tab or from academic records standards results. Let's see. Okay, so this is interesting. It looks like from the quick lookup standards tab, you cannot make an adjustment, but from standards results, I can change that grade. I could add a comment. I'm not going to, but it says percent will be recalculated upon submit. The only other thing I really wanted to show you was sometimes we'll get tickets in that say all of these standards have the wrong grade scale, or they had the wrong course number and there are 22 standards. And I don't want to go and change them each one. I can make some changes with Data Export Manager. So we're just going to do that. We'll do data export. And there are instructions how to do that in your instructions. I want to, in my category, I want to either do show all or PowerSchool data sets. I want to then say standards district list. This is where I would go if I wanted to export out all of my existing standards into a spreadsheet to tweak it for next year. I can, dump them all into that spreadsheet, by exporting them all here. If I click this little box up here besides district list, it's going to select everything. I don't really want to see everything right now. I don't care about ID. I don't care about longitudinal ID or external ID. Those aren't important. The year is important. I like to see the name and the identifier. You do not need conversion scale. Again, for people who've been around for a really long time, PowerSchool used to have a conversion scale for standards. They don't do that anymore. So I can get rid of that. I don't care about max comment length, but I'll just leave all the other things. And I'm going to say next. And then I want to filter, and I want to filter it by year ID. So this year is 34. That's what I want to look for. And let's say I only want to look for my second grade standards. So I'm going to go to my identifier, and I want my second grade contains, let's do reading, 2.rd. And then I'm going to go over here to the right and say show the records. And you don't have any. Show the records. There we go, 2.r. That's going to give me my 2.rls, my 2. Whatever. It's only showing me 20, so I'm going to change that to 100. I want to see all there are to see. And I'm going to go through here, and I've got 12. I don't want 12. So I am going to come up to my little filter and add another one and say the identifier does not contain 12, and then show records. So I don't see any 12s. I also don't want to see any of these AZs, whatever, or maybe the A2s. I don't want to see any of those. So I can continue to filter so I only have the ones that I want. So I'm just going to do my RLs. So now say I have my little list. These are my 10 records that I want to change. And say I want to change the grade scale. I'm showing the records. I'm going to go over here to edit all my filtered records. I am going to click on grade scale. Now, right now, I know I looked at this chart and it's 259. And I went ahead beforehand and went into my list of grade scales. And I knew that I had a 246 or a 249, and I would submit it, and it would change those for me. So I've changed all of those at once. If I didn't want to change anything, I'm actually going to put those all back to what they were so I don't mess up anybody else's stuff. If I just wanted to export these, I could say I would just want to export these records, and again, to your spreadsheet. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about standards. If you want to know more, documentation, our YouTube video, or put in a help desk ticket. Any other questions that I can answer for you before we're done? No questions. You guys are all standards experts. So yeah, Jen would be happy to have you put a ticket in and help you as you need. I see Jess is typing us a question. Thank you for asking me a question, Jess. Yeah.
Good questions coming in.
Cool. It's always fun to spend an hour with you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Okay, great. I'll hang on here just for a few more minutes, just in case. But thank you for joining us today. Hope the sun comes out. We're stuck in this room with no window, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you what it looks like.
So Jess wants to know to confirm if the standards are staying the same for next year. We don't need to do anything. They will be copied over during rollover.
Correctly. Correct. Yes. Standards will automatically copy over from one year to the next as part of the end of year process. You don't have to do a thing.
She's celebrating. So that's good news. Yeah.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Renee from Shaker.
Hi.
Just along what I just saw you do, where you were able to change a standard grade in a course. Is there a way we can like group add department to courses?
Add a department with that same procedure to courses.
Right, like where you went to Data Export Manager and was able to edit.
Not everything, we'll go look at that. Not everything has the show records and edit records. Standards does, but again, not everything. But let's go see what we can see for courses. Courses, contacts, course fee, courses. All right, so let's say we want to see the course name, the course number, the department, one of the choices. School, sched year. Let's do that. School ID. Courses, score fields, courses DCID. Courses, honors. I would think department would be here. Everything else is here. Display position, homeroom. I don't see department. See. Is it called something else?
In the courses screen, it says associate. Oh, it says schedule department under.
Oh, okay. So let's look at
It's the first table, courses, the main one, and then schedule, SEH.
Here you go. Got it. Thank you. So I picked the fields that I want to see. So if I don't pick them here, when I go to the edit, I don't see them. So let's go with this. And let's go next. And let's filter it by sched year. Assuming it's like that. Show records. All right, let's don't filter it. That contains. Actually, that one doesn't even have it contains. All right, let's don't filter it. Show records. So here's my courses, my sched year. There's nothing there. That wasn't a good choice. Here's my department. Notice there is no edit button here. So this, there are a few things that you can edit, but not everything. And it looks like that's not one. Now
So
you could do a spreadsheet. You could export the stuff out, change the department, and then import it back in. But there's not an edit button to do what we did with the standards.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, sorry. Anything else? Okay.